welcome to my workshop and studio. Whether you're a beginner, an experienced miniature hobbyist, a model railroader, a mini wargamer, or just someone looking for a unique item to display on their mantle or bookcase, you certainly have come to the right place. My purpose with these videos is to help you create historically accurate miniatures. I craft all my models in 0 or 1/4 inch scale, but my methods can easily be adapted to other scales. No fancy power tools are needed. In fact, if you can handle common hand tools, you won't have any problem. Here at US Frontier Miniatures, I strive to not only make a historically accurate model, but one that is as close to museum quality as possible. Now, with the techniques that I have learned over the years, along with the methods that I have developed, I'd like to show you how to achieve these same results. Let's get started. Hello, Matt here at US Frontier Miniatures. Out of necessity, I've divided this project into 6 parts. This build covers everything from planning the house to crafting each individual part. Plus, it even includes making the stone embossing tools. It ends up with building a display stand for what I consider to be an accurate historical miniature replica of an early American stone house. In this final part, we'll start with weathering the stones. We'll start by just using this apple barrel, plain white paint, to just dry brush some streaks across some of the darker stones, like the darker grays, the pewter gray, also the yellow ochre, and any color that's really dark. We'll go ahead and just dry brush very lightly a white streak across it. Okay, I've zoomed in so you can see some of the white streaks from the dry brushing that we put across some of the stone. The Velspar company makes a good antiquing glaze that we want to apply to this next phase of the project. It's a black glaze, and what we want to do is brush it on very liberally and then wipe it off immediately with dry cloths. I'll show you an example of that. You should take one section at a time, maybe as I'm doing here, 2 or 3 inches, and then apply it on and then wipe it off. Don't worry about the darker black appearing in the crevices of the stone, because that will be covered up later by mortar. But what we want is the antiquing effect that the black glaze gives us to the stone. You'll notice that I dip a rag in water and keep wiping the molding sides to keep them free of the glaze. Well, there you go. We've got some stones that look like they're thousands of years old. Well, now that we've weathered and aged the stones, we want to seal them so that when we apply the grout, it won't, be caught in the crevices of any of the stone, but it'll just be in the natural crevices, and we'll be able to wipe the stones clean. I recommend the Mod Podge that you saw there a few seconds ago. their satin formula for this purpose. Brush it on liberally and let it dry, and then we'll be able to apply the grout and wipe it off from the excess of grout off, much like you would do a tile job in your own home. I'll go ahead and apply these same weathering, aging, and sealing techniques to the rest of the house. For our mortar, we'll use the same mixture of golden brand light molding paste mixed with country gray and white that we used back in part 4 on the chimney. You might want to go back and review that part 4 of this series. But in any event, we put 2 parts country gray paint with 1 part white paint and mix that with the golden light molding paste. And we're applying it here liberally to the stones. You want to make sure that you get that mortar in all the crevices between the stones. And then what we'll do is we'll use a combination of dry and damp cloths, rags, to wipe that off. I usually start with the dry cloth first, and then I'll get another cloth that I'll soak in water, but make sure I rinse out good, and then I'll wipe the excess of grout off of that. As you can see, this process creates a very nice finish, only leaving the mortar in between the stones and not on top of the stones. Here we are, just about finished with this side of the house, except to wipe off the stones. You'll notice that I've filled in the gaps between the siding and the beginning of the stones, and also any gaps around the window openings, so that the mortar is completely filled in. So now we'll remove the painter's tape that we had over the windows, and we have ourselves a completed side here that I will say will definitely pass muster. It came out very good. As mentioned before, I'll go ahead and finish the other 3 sides of the house the same way. Well, okay, we've finished antiquing and applying the mortar to all 4 sides of the house. And I must say it has come out extremely well. It looks great. And it's time now for us to move on to the roof. And I want to add that we also put the mortar on the stoop, so that's all set to go once we get finished. So for the roof, I found a product made by an outfit called Real Scale Models, and it's laser cut, random cut shake shingles, and it's the best product that I've seen after applying a lot of different shingle products over time. You'll want to be very careful cutting out the rows of shingles from the overall cardstock template here. Just like a regular shingling job, we'll start with first taping down the roof piece to the mat, but then we'll start with what's called a starter strip, which is furnished in the package with the shingles. Another good point about these laser cut shingles is that they come with a self-adhesive backing, so you just have to peel that off, and then you can apply it and just cut it to size using the roof strip as your guideline. So after you put the first strip of regular shingles down on the starter strip, it's just a matter of each successive strip being placed in such a way as to not line them up with the strip below, but to overlap them as you would as you see, a normal shingled roof. It's also always good to check your measurements, from the latest shingle strip to the top of the roof to make sure that everything. Well, okay, we've finished with one side of the roof, and the only thing left to do is to just trim the sides. The last few layers I overlapped the roof a little bit, so we can go ahead and trim those, and also trim the indentation for the chimney opening. Well, okay, I went ahead and finished the other section of the roof and also the pent roof, and also the piece for the roof cap, which you can order separate from real scale models. And what I recommend is this Rust-Oleum product called Dark Brown, and it's a satin finish. Start, a weathering and finishing process. Okay, well, I finished painting all the spray painting, all the roof pieces, the Rust-Oleum satin dark brown, and at this point we want to put a Velspar lime wash glaze on it. Now let me just say this about weathering and antiquing the roof. And in my opinion, the roof is one of the most important parts of making a quality miniature. I've displayed at both model railroad shows and also miniature shows and miniature dollhouse shows. And the first thing that people see when they come in, especially if you have your models on a maybe 32-inch high table, are the roofs of your miniatures. So it's very important that your roofs are to scale and that they look top quality. There's nothing worse than seeing a well-built miniature that someone has gone out of scale and maybe cut some pieces of roof shingle out of normal strips of lumber that you would buy, in a Home Depot or Lowe's, and it looks completely out of whack despite the quality of their craftsmanship. So what we're doing here is we're applying the wash in small sections, and then we're wiping it off immediately with a dry cloth. Our aim here is to highlight the individual shingles. There you go, mission accomplished. In this next step of the weathering process, we just want to use some plain apple barrel white paint and dry brush about 4 or 5 streaks from the top to the bottom of the roof, the way you might see in the normal wear and tear over the years on a weathered roof. So over the years, through trial and error, I've developed a wash consisting of 1 part faux cut burnt sienna with 6 parts of water to achieve, a natural wood cedar looking shingle. Just need to go ahead and paint this wash. On as you would regular paint. After applying the wash, we'll give it one more coat of the Velspar lime wash glaze. Okay, our roof is ready to go since we applied the second coat of the lime wash. And now what we want to do is, before we glue the roof on, is to put some additional roof braces, 1/8 inch by 1/4 inch, along the peaks of the roof to give us a better gluing job. Secondly, we want to take 1/4 inch square wood and glue 2 3-inch pieces on the bottom. So after the house is enclosed, we'll have a better gluing surface to put on a display stand. Okay, well, with the braces being on and everything, we'll go ahead and start gluing the roof together. We'll start with the pent roof, just putting some PVA glue on here, and we'll also put some super glue on, and then we'll go ahead and glue that on and insert the roof into that groove that we left in the clay. Okay, and now for the two main roof pieces and the roof cap. Okay, well, we're almost finished. Just a few small details. We want to finish the two pieces of slate for the chimney sides. So we'll use a white dry brushing on it, possibly put a black antique glaze. Well, I like the way it came out with the dry brushing. So I think I'll just leave it at that without doing the black glaze. And we'll go ahead and glue the two pieces on now. Another important detail to finish here is the top of the chimney. As I mentioned, the roof is very important because it's what a lot of people see first when they look at your miniature, especially if they're looking down upon it, sitting lower on a table or bookcase. But the chimney, of course, is part of that. And what we want to do, since in those days many people used a clay tile to surround their flue pipe, on the top of the chimney, I've cut out a piece of 5/8 inch square clay to simulate the actual tile that was put on the chimney. I glue this piece of tile on with Elmer's glue all, and then I go on to place a 3/16 inch wide outside diameter dowel in the center of it to make the hole for the flue that we're going to put down there, the flue pipe. So I just make an indent there, and then when the tile dries, I'll carve out any excess of clay that's still left there. In this next step, I'll carve the whole piece of tile into 4 individual sections. I'll then apply the black antique glaze to the chimney top and just dry it off immediately. I then glued a piece of 3/16 inch diameter plastic tubing that I had painted black by 5/8 inch long, onto the roof for the flue. And there you go. We're ready for the display stand. Well, the house is finished. The only thing left to do is to make a display stand and sign your work. There's a lot of different stands that you can find in different stores like Michael or Hobby Link, what have you. Here's an example of one. It's 7.5 inches wide by 10.5 inches long, 1/4 inch thick. But what I like to do, and it's the only place that I use a power tool, a portable jigsaw. Here's an example of one that I did of an early American English settler's cottage. I like the 1/4 inch, or rather 1/8 inch thickness of the fiberboard. I think it goes along with the O-scale house rather nicely. Here's another example of a house that I've done, and it's what I call an early American farmhouse. But you notice also that I put some bumpers on the bottom of it, and I shaped the board so I have room to sign it on the back. What I'll use is a flexible ruler to draw my shape with on the clipboard. I'll also use anything round that I have, like this plastic jar, to draw some semicircles to get myself started. Okay, well, I'm happy with the shape now, and you'll notice I've got room on the back where I'll be able to sign the work. I'll go ahead now and cut this out with my jigsaw. Okay, I cut it out, and I also gave it a coat of white prime spray paint. I'm using a 220 number fine sandpaper to sand it down, and I've decided to use butter pecan as the main color, or as the color for the base. If you recall, butter pecan was the color that we actually used on our initial wash for the stones. And I had made up some samples here and tried them all out and decided that the butter pecan would go well as a coordinating color with both the stones and So I'm going to go ahead and give this 3 coats of butter pecan. Of course, I'll be sanding in between coats because I want the base to look very nice. Well, the display stand came out very nice, and I think I mentioned it once or twice during the course of these videos, but I always believe in signing my work, and you should too. After you make your house, you should be quite proud of it, and you should sign and date it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm just placing a piece of wood there and putting a couple of little light marks there so I can sign it with the house off of it, which will be a lot easier to do and won't mess up my handwriting sloppy enough. What I recommend here is using, of course, a permanent marker to do it. I'm using, a Sharpie black fine marker, to go ahead and sign it with. After putting the signature on with the Sharpie, I recommend spraying a clear coat. I use Rust-Oleum matte clear over this surface and the signature. And there you have it. It says circa 1750, Delaware River Valley Stone House, Colonial America, and my signature. Now at the next step, we're going to put some heavy-duty felt pads on the bottom of the stand. And I'll also glue the house onto the display stand. And there we have it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you a German Colonial, circa 1750, a miniature replica of those built in the Delaware River Valley of colonial America. Well, if you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up below and also subscribe. That way you can be informed of my new projects. This stone house is a complete craft project from the top of the chimney to the display stand that it sits on. And by necessity, I've divided it into 6 parts according to the sequence that I built it in. So if you're going to build one of these for yourself, I certainly recommend that you view the other 5 videos. Don't forget to get a free copy of the house plan drawings below, plus the supplies list and a list of tools that I use. In case you can't get some of these items locally, I've also furnished links for you to obtain them. Lastly, I invite you to visit my Etsy shop, where you can see examples of other models that I've made. See the link below. Good luck with your own build, and if you have any questions, ask them in the comments section.